Emma stood in the long line outside the casting studio, the sharp morning light casting cool shadows on the pavement. She smoothed down the simple cotton blouse she had chosen for the day, a modest sky blue shirt with no brand label, paired with plain jeans and worn sneakers. Beside her, other hopefuls in designer clothes and perfect makeup chatted excitedly, their voices humming with confidence she didn't feel. Her heart raced in her chest, a mix of nervousness and quiet hope wrestling within her. This casting, for a major fashion campaign, was a chance, however small, to step into a different world. Emma was not the usual type seen at such events. She was in her early 30s, with kind hazel eyes and untamed chestnut hair pulled back in a loose braid. Her face was fresh and unpolished but sincere. For years, she had avoided the spotlight, choosing instead a life focused on meaningful work far from glitz and glamour. Yet, here she was, drawn by a whisper of possibility. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. The studio's glass walls revealed crowds of models and hopefuls, some laughing, others focused. At the helm was Mr. Reynolds, the casting director, a man with a reputation for sharp eyes and an unforgiving manner. His dark suit and cold expression commanded attention. He paced the room, scrutinizing every face like a hawk looking for prey. When Emma finally met his gaze, a flicker of disdain crossed his face. Without a word, he stepped forward, blocking her path. "This isn't the kind of look we want," he said bluntly, his tone dismissive. "You should leave." The words hit her like a punch. Emma blinked in surprise, but before she could speak, Mr. Reynolds waved her away, signaling security nearby. The casting room buzzed with curious eyes turning to her. Emma stood frozen, caught between hope and rejection. The sharp words from Mr. Reynolds echoed through the air, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. Emma's heart pounded as she processed what he had just said. "You should leave." No explanation, no second chance, only the cold dismissal that cut deeper than she expected. She took a small step forward, trying to keep her voice steady, despite the knots twisting inside her. I came here to audition," she began softly, her eyes pleading for a moment of consideration. "I don't have fancy clothes or makeup, but I've always believed that sincerity can shine through." Mr. Reynolds' eyes narrowed, an imperious smirk appearing on his lips. "Sincerity? This is a fashion campaign, not a charity event. We need models who fit the brand image, picture perfect, polished, glamorous. Frankly, you don't even belong on this floor." His words were sharp knives, and his voice cruelly final. Emma felt a flush of heat rise to her cheeks as other candidates nearby began whispering and casting sidelong glances her way. Some exchanged looks of sympathy, while others barely concealed their amusement. She swallowed hard, the sting of embarrassment pricking her eyes. Her hand trembled as she clutched her simple bag tighter. Before she could respond, Mr. Reynolds stepped aside and gestured to two security guards standing by the door. "Escort her out," he ordered bluntly, never breaking eye contact with Emma as if daring her to protest. The security guards approached solemnly. Emma inhaled deeply, bracing herself against the surge of humiliation washing over her. The murmurs among the crowd grew louder. "What's going on? Who is she?" someone whispered. Another sneered, "No wonder she doesn't fit in here." One of the guards gently grasped her elbow. "Please come with us," he said quietly but firmly. Emma glanced back at the casting room, where hopeful faces now watched her with a mixture of judgment and curiosity. The room that held her dreams suddenly felt like a trap closing shut. Despite the sting, she maintained a composed demeanor, refusing to break down in front of strangers. Outside, the city noise seemed distant as she was guided down a hallway, the heavy footsteps of security echoing behind her. She was led to a small vestibule near the entrance, the weak sunlight filtered through frosted glass. When the guards released her arm, Emma slumped against the cool wall, her breath shallow. Her fingers fumbled for her phone as she dialed her closest friend, Sarah. The line rang twice before a warm voice answered. Emma? What's wrong? You sound upset. Tears pricked at Emma's eyes, but she blinked them back. They kicked me out, she whispered, voice trembling. The casting director said I didn't belong. He said I wasn't what they were looking for, and security escorted me out in front of everyone. Sarah's voice softened, a shield of reassurance. That's awful. You're talented, Emma. Don't let that man's narrow vision define you. I know, Emma said, her voice gaining strength, but it still hurts. I came here hoping, for once, to be seen. Instead, I was shamed for being simple. Sarah paused, then said firmly, You don't deserve this. Maybe you should just leave and come back smarter, or find something better, someplace where they appreciate real beauty. Emma sighed, glancing back at the studio's imposing facade. Part of her wanted to walk away, disappear from this scene altogether. Yet another part, the part that had brought her here despite everything, whispered hope. A stubborn ember still flickered inside. I'll go for a walk, Emma said finally, clear my head. Before she could hang up, she noticed the door behind her, the way it remained open. Through it, she saw a growing crowd gathering near the entrance, watching her through the glass. Mr. Reynolds appeared at the threshold again, this time his arms crossed and his expression colder than before. Where do you think you're going? He called sharply. Emma looked up, startled. You can't just walk away. You were a disruption. It's better if you wait here while we decide what to do. Her heart hammered. The initial dismissal had become a barricade. Please, Emma said gently, I don't want to cause trouble. I just want to leave. Mr. Reynolds shook his head, unmoved. You need to understand your place. This isn't for you. And you're not leaving without permission. Security moved to flank her again, closing the path quietly but effectively. Emma's chest tightened with a mixture of frustration and helplessness. Her eyes scanned the crowd around them, catching glimpses of surprised, judgmental, even amused faces. Whispers rippled through the gathering audience. Someone murmured, Did she do something wrong? Another voice replied, Maybe she wasn't supposed to be here. Emma wished the earth would open and swallow her whole. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to escape the relentless scrutiny. Yet, here she was, trapped, exposed as if on a stage set for public shame rather than opportunity. Suddenly, she felt her friend Sarah's words echo again, Don't let this define you. But how to hold on to hope in the sea of cold eyes? Across the room, behind a pillar, a tall figure observed quietly. Mr. Carter, a famous photographer known worldwide for his ability to capture undiscovered talent, watched Emma with keen interest. His gaze was unreadable, but there was something softening as he witnessed the scene unfold. Mr. Reynolds remained rigid, his posture rigid and unyielding. He expected Emma to break, to retreat defeated. Yet in that moment, as voices whispered and eyes fixed on her, Emma resolved to hold steady. The weight of humiliation pressed down, but beneath it a fragile thread of courage knotted tighter. Emma stood a little taller, swallowing her embarrassment. The room seemed deafening, but her mind cleared with a sharp focus. This was a test she hadn't asked for, but one she wasn't willing to lose silently. The tension hung thick, a fragile web between rejection and possibility. Emma's pulse raced, a silent question remained. What could she do to turn this moment around? Around her, the world waited, curious and judgmental. If you were in Emma's place, isolated and dismissed before you even had a chance to try, what would you do? Would you retreat quietly or dare to hold your ground under the unforgiving spotlight? The heavy silence that settled in the room felt as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Emma's gaze flicked past Mr. Reynolds to the curious faces that surrounded her, the casting hopefuls, the security guards, and the staff, all witnesses to this quiet drama. Her mind raced, not with panic, but a growing determination. She was not going to be just another forgotten face dismissed without cause. Before she could gather her thoughts for a response, a clear voice cut through the tension. "Wait." It was calm but commanded attention. Emma turned her head to see a tall man stepping forward from the corner, his presence radiating quiet authority. He wore a simple black shirt, his hair streaked with silver, and a camera slung casually around his neck. Mr. Carter, the very photographer Emma had noticed earlier, was now addressing the room. "Let's give her a chance," Mr. Carter said firmly, his eyes fixed on Mr. Reynolds. "I want to try something. Emma, would you mind?" Emma blinked, hope flickering in her chest. "Yes," she said softly, a spark of excitement mingling with her nervousness. The room buzzed with a mixture of surprise and intrigue. Mr. Reynolds' expression turned guarded, but Mr. Carter's calm confidence seemed to steer the moment away from conflict. The security guards relaxed their stance, and Emma found herself led to a makeshift area near a large window where natural light spilled in. Mr. Carter lifted his camera, his eyes scanning Emma's face. "Just be yourself," he said quietly. "Forget everyone else. Show me who you really are." Emma took a deep breath and nodded. The nerves still tingled in her stomach, but she centered herself. Unlike the polished models who posed with practiced perfection, Emma let go of expectations. She closed her eyes briefly and then opened them, settling into a natural rhythm. Her gaze softened, her lips curved faintly, and she allowed the emotions that had been bottled inside to seep through: strength, vulnerability, hope, and resilience. Click. The shutter sounded once. Then again. Mr. Carter moved fluidly around her, asking for subtle changes but never demanding more than genuine expression. Emma shifted from a slight, inviting smile to a quiet intensity that captured something deeper. Every photograph revealed facets of her personality that no branded outfit could ever highlight: warmth, authenticity, and a captivating presence that held the room's attention. The instant the first images flashed on Mr. Carter's camera screen, a murmur rose among the onlookers. The photographs were stunning, raw, real, and breathtaking. Faces that moments ago had been filled with judgment now reflected awe. Mr. Reynolds planted his hands on his hips, lips pressed together, his eyes darting from the screen back to Emma. He had underestimated her, and it showed. A young assistant edged closer, whispering excitedly, "These are incredible. She's got something special. We need to reconsider." Emma had rarely felt so exposed, yet the camera seemed to capture not flaws, but her undeniable light. As the session continued, the room's energy shifted palpably. Whispers turned to quiet praise. One of the casting candidates, a tall woman with glossy hair, approached Emma hesitantly. "I'm sorry," she whispered, avoiding direct eye contact. "I was wrong to judge you. You look amazing." Emma smiled softly, the warmth in that moment stronger than any rejection she'd felt before. As the shoot wrapped, Mr. Carter turned to the gathered team. "I think we've found what we were looking for, just not in the way we expected." Mr. Reynolds' face flushed. He attempted to regain his authoritative composure, but the damage was done. The power dynamics in the room had shifted. Emma was no longer the rejected outsider. A senior production manager stepped forward, peering at the images on the screen. "These are beautiful," she said thoughtfully. "Emma, how soon can you be available for the actual campaign?" Emma blinked, the question surprising her. I'm available now," she replied, her voice steady. Suddenly, the casting floor buzzed with renewed energy. Mr. Carter smiled at Emma, the same quiet warmth in his eyes. "You showed them what real presence means," he said. Emma's heart swelled. In the span of a few minutes, everything had changed. Meanwhile, Mr. Reynolds crossed his arms, his pride wounded but his expression cool. He approached Emma cautiously. "You got lucky with that photographer," he muttered, avoiding eye contact. "Don't think this means anything." Emma met his gaze evenly. "Maybe," she said, "or maybe it means you judged too quickly." The crowd chuckled softly, some clapping lightly in encouragement. Mr. Carter nodded approvingly at Emma's grace under pressure. Outside the casting room, whispers of the incident began to spread, word that a simple woman had silenced a tough casting director and outshined expectations. Emma packed up her modest belongings, a newfound confidence guiding her hands. The weight of humiliation she had carried hours before was replaced by something lighter. She wasn't just a simple woman anymore. She was someone with presence, charm, and undeniable talent. Once the studio quieted, Mr. Carter pulled Emma aside. "You've got a rare gift," he said kindly, "and you were brave to let it show. Don't hide it." Emma nodded, her eyes misty with gratitude. "Thank you for believing." He smiled. "People like you remind us that true beauty isn't about labels or appearances. It's about who you are inside." As Emma left the studio that day, the city seemed different. The busy streets, the relentless traffic, the chatter of strangers, all felt a little softer, a little more welcoming. She walked with quieter steps and a steadier heart. The casting that had once been a battleground became a stage, not for conflict but for revelation. Emma had proven something to herself and everyone watching, that worth is not measured by clothes, status, or first impressions. Mr. Reynolds, meanwhile, retreated to his office, his pride bruised but thoughts stirring. Tonight's events had cast a new light on his beliefs. The woman he dismissed so quickly, Emma, had exposed his narrowness, and whether he wanted to admit it or not, she had changed something in that room. For Emma, this was only the beginning. The photographs captured by Mr. Carter would soon travel far and wide, showing the world a beauty many had overlooked. And she carried with her the quiet knowledge that sometimes, the simplest woman holds the most extraordinary power. As the city lights began to twinkle in the dusk, Emma's journey was no longer about fitting in, it was about standing out in the most authentic way possible. After the photographic session, the energy in the casting studio shifted unmistakably. Conversations buzzed with excitement and curiosity rather than judgment. Whispers grew louder, centering around Emma, the woman who had so effortlessly shattered expectations in a matter of moments. As the team gathered around, Mr. Carter stepped forward, his expression warm and assured. "There's something I'd like to share about Emma," he announced, capturing everyone's attentive gaze. "She isn't just someone who stumbled into this casting. Emma is a remarkable woman with a life story few of us could imagine." The room grew still, all eyes fixed on Emma as Mr. Carter began to reveal more. "She's an internationally acclaimed humanitarian and philanthropist," he explained, his voice sincere. "Her work has taken her to some of the most remote and challenging places in the world, aiding vulnerable communities and spearheading projects that have changed lives on a global scale." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembled group. Few had suspected that the modest woman in simple clothes, standing so humbly among them, carried such a substantial legacy. It was almost as though the truth reframed her very presence. Emma listened quietly, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks at the unexpected spotlight. She had never sought the public eye, choosing instead to devote herself to causes that mattered more than appearances. Her simple attire was a deliberate choice, symbolic of aligning with the communities she supported and avoiding unnecessary attention. "I don't usually dress like this," she said softly, offering a shy smile. "When I travel to work on these projects, simplicity is important. It helps me blend in and focus on the work, not the wardrobe. Today, I just wanted to try something different, to step outside my usual world." Her words resonated with many in the room, touching on themes of authenticity and substance beyond surface-level glamour. The interaction offered a glimpse of Emma's values: humility, dedication, and quiet strength. Several people nodded thoughtfully, and one staff member asked, "Have you ever considered modeling or being in the public eye before?" Emma's gaze faltered for a moment, then she shook her head. "I've always admired art and beauty, but my life has been consumed by the work I do. This opportunity is new for me." Her voice held a note of wonder, like discovering an uncharted part of herself. Mr. Carter smiled, adding, and that's precisely why she brings something unique to the table, not just a look, but a story and spirit that can inspire. This revelation deepened Emma's character in the eyes of the group. No longer just a simple woman, dismissed out of hand, she was now understood as someone far more complex and extraordinary. The initial judgment faded under the weight of respect and admiration. As the conversation continued, Emma found herself answering questions, not about casting logistics, but about the projects she had led, the people she had met, and the lives she had touched. Her humility shone through, and yet there was an undeniable strength in her words. She recounted moments of hardship and hope, illustrating a resilience that quietly informed every step she took. During a break, Emma stepped outside to catch her breath. The cool afternoon air brushed against her face, and she reflected on how far she had come, just that morning, unsure and anxious, now, a woman recognized for something far beyond appearance. Her thoughts turned to the life she balanced, managing charitable initiatives, traveling between continents, and navigating the challenges of raising awareness in a world obsessed with surface beauty. Often, that balance required sacrifices, including the luxury of pausing to think about her own dreams. Yet today had opened a new door. Back inside, the production team huddled to discuss next steps. The campaign director, Ms. Collins, spoke thoughtfully. Emma embodies a different kind of beauty, real, lived, and soulful. This could resonate deeply with our audience in a way no traditional model could. Mr. Carter nodded in agreement. Authenticity is powerful. It's the kind of impact we want. Emma felt a flutter of excitement mixed with apprehension. While she had never aimed for the spotlight, she sensed that this opportunity could be a platform to amplify the causes she cared about. It might also challenge conventional ideas of beauty and success, a chance to redefine what it means to belong. Later, she found herself sitting quietly with Sarah, the friend who had supported her over the phone earlier. They shared a small coffee, and as the city hummed beyond the cafe windows, their conversation dug deeper. "Did you ever imagine today would unfold like this?" Sarah asked, eyes shining with pride. Emma shook her head with a gentle smile. "Not at all. I was expecting dismissal, maybe embarrassment. Instead, I discovered something new about myself, and perhaps, about the kind of woman I want to be on the world stage." Sarah reached over and squeezed Emma's hand. "You belong exactly where you are supposed to be." Emma's heart warmed. The journey she was embarking on was unfamiliar but filled with possibility. The modest woman who had stood uncertain in line that morning was evolving. Her past history of tireless humanitarian work, her values rooted in simplicity and purpose, and her newfound visibility as a model blended into a multifaceted story of resilience and authenticity. Yet the anticipation lingered. The campaign was still unfolding, and how the broader world would receive this unexpected revelation remained to be seen. Emma knew the road ahead would likely challenge her in new ways, but she felt ready, armed with honesty, grace, and a quiet confidence. As evening settled over the city and the studio buzz faded into calm, Emma looked forward with a thoughtful gaze, curious to see how the world might change when given a chance to truly see beyond the surface. The days following the casting event were a whirlwind of transformations for everyone involved, Emma most of all, but also for Mr. Reynolds and the entire production team. News of what had happened spread quickly throughout the fashion world, shared in hushed conversations and online forums. The story of the woman who had risen above dismissive judgments to captivate a renowned photographer's eye became a kind of legend in a matter of hours. Mr. Reynolds, once so confident in his sharp assessments, found himself at the center of a growing controversy. The production company's upper management, including Ms. Collins and other executives, convened rapidly to discuss the fallout. They recognized that his treatment of Emma contradicted the inclusive image they wished to promote, and more importantly, it reflected poorly on their reputation. Reluctantly, Mr. Reynolds received an official reprimand. His superior made it clear that dismissing Emma without giving her a fair chance was not only an error but a failure to reflect the company's evolving values. The message was firm: favoritism based on superficial appearance had no place here anymore. There was talk that his position might be reconsidered if similar behavior occurred again. More than professional consequences, the emotional impact was palpable. Mr. Reynolds spent hours reflecting quietly in his office, the weight of embarrassment pressing upon him. He had misjudged Emma dramatically, and now that the world saw her true worth, he felt a pang of regret. The ease with which she had handled rejection, the genuine spark that filled her photographs, it was clear he had underestimated not only her talent but her character. In a gesture meant to mend fences, and perhaps soothe public opinion, Mr. Reynolds personally reached out to Emma with a formal apology. The letter was sincere, acknowledging his harsh words and recognizing the wrong done to her. He offered her a lead role in the campaign, complete with compensation and full creative support. Emma received the message with a quiet grace. She understood that while it was an apology, it also spoke of change, both in herself and in others. When she responded, she expressed her willingness to collaborate but also gently reminded Mr. Reynolds that respect and openness should be at the foundation of every opportunity. Her reply set the tone for a new relationship between them, one rooted not in power or prejudice but in mutual recognition of humanity. The campaign soon moved forward with Emma at its center. The photographs taken by Mr. Carter became a sensation, admired for their authenticity and emotional depth. Viewers saw in her an uncommon beauty that transcended flawless skin or trend-driven style. It was a living warmth, a story told through eyes and gestures. Emma's involvement brought unexpected benefits beyond the fashion sphere. Several charities and humanitarian groups highlighted the campaign's message, drawing attention to causes she championed for years. She began receiving invitations to speak, not as a celebrity but as a voice for change. Throughout it all, Emma remained grounded. Her life had shifted in ways she could barely have imagined, but the principles that shaped her, simplicity, empathy, and dedication, remained steadfast. Modeling had become a platform, not a destination. Conversation with Sarah reflected that. "You've opened so many eyes," Sarah said one evening over the phone. "What's next for you?" Emma smiled thoughtfully. "I want to keep telling stories that matter, and maybe challenge more people to see beneath the surface." Meanwhile, Mr. Reynolds faced his own journey. The episode forced him to reconsider his approach, gradually shedding old biases that had prioritized image over substance. The reprimand and public scrutiny taught him humility and the importance of inclusivity. While the road to full redemption was long, he made efforts to improve, attending workshops and engaging openly with a more diverse range of talents. Over time, he earned cautious respect from colleagues who had witnessed his transformation. The ripple effects extended to the casting studio as well. Policies were revised, with an emphasis on diverse representation and fair opportunities. The environment shifted from one of exclusivity to one that embraced difference, something Emma exemplified so profoundly. When Emma returned to the studio for a full photo shoot, her walk was steady, her head held high. The cameras, once instruments of judgment, now captured a woman whose simple attire was a symbol of authenticity and strength. The set was filled with warmth, laughter, and admiration, a stark contrast to the cold dismissal she faced on that first day. In those moments, Emma felt a quiet vindication, not only for herself but for every person ever underestimated because they didn't fit a conventional mold. She had turned rejection into opportunity, silence into a story that touched many. As the shooting wrapped, Mr. Carter came over with a genuine smile. "You've changed more than just this campaign," he said. "You've shifted minds." Emma nodded, gratitude shining through. "It's about more than modeling," she replied. "It's about being seen." In the final moments of the story, Emma stood before the studio mirror, brushing her hair back, a mix of reflection and resolve in her eyes. Her journey was far from over, but she embraced what had come with open arms, ready to face whatever the future held. And so her tale closed on a hopeful note, one where courage, authenticity, and kindness rewrote what it meant to shine in the world. What would you have done if you were in Emma's place? faced with judgment and dismissal so sudden and public? Would you have found the strength to show your true self or turned away quietly? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales. See you in our next story.